Well, we're continuing, and hopefully we'll be able to conclude the first 8 verses of Brahma's prayers out of 40. So here's that screen that you've seen already. This is there's that recording. The first 8 verses you see in the lower left side, understanding and approaching Krishna. And then later, Brahma's humility, Brahma's glorification of Krishna's inconceivable potencies, Krishna's the knowledge versus ignorance, glorious gopis, that's really a nice section, and the glories of Krishna. So a little bit of review. We covered the first 3 verses. We did a lot of other things too, but the first 3 verses of Canto 1, Chapter 14. The first verse, I'm sure you remember, first verse was really nice description of the form of Krishna, the paraphernalia of Krishna, the dhoti of Krishna, the earrings of Krishna, everything. It's a Krishna darshan meditation. And the second verse was a discussion of the place, the Vrindavan scene. And then you may recall, I'm sure some of you that with us will recall, there was a request that you memorize the 3rd verse. So I'm going to ask to see if somebody would like to volunteer. Not everybody all at once, but if someone wants to volunteer, that you memorized and you can recite for us verse number 3. And right after that, we're going to say it together, but there's the verse. So we're going to say it together next. But what's the verse? It starts Jnane Prayasam. Anyone want to volunteer? Okay, we'll sing it together. Here it is. Together. Jnane Prayasam Udapasya Namanta Eva Jivanti Sanmukharitam Bhavidiyavartam Jnanestatakshruti Gatam Panavan Manobhir Ye Prayaso Jita Jito Pyasti Raisti Lokyam. We mentioned that this is such an important verse that in Lord Chaitanya's discussions with Ramananda Roy, Lord Chaitanya accepted that this is the goal of bhakti and the means to achieve it. The goal of life, achieve it. Such an important verse. Went through each of those color-coded phrases at length. Jnane Prayasa Udapasya. Udapasya means absolutely to reject, don't touch the prayasa, the endeavor to cultivate knowledge of the Supreme. Rather, namanta eva, offering obeisances, jivanti, as long as one is alive, jivanti, sanmukhaditam bhavadiyavartam. So, sthanesh, stay in your position. We had some discussion about that. Shruti, gatam, make the hearing that goal of life with one's tanu, van, manobir. Tanu, the body, the van, the power of speech, and mana, the mind. And such a person can conquer the unconquerable just by living and staying alive and doing these very simple activities. Here's the translation that we saw yesterday, at the end of yesterday. those who, even while remaining situated in their established social positions, throw away the process of speculative knowledge and with their body, words, and mind offer all respects to descriptions of your personality and activities, dedicating their lives to these narrations which are vibrated by you personally and by your pure devotees, certainly conquer your lordship, although you are otherwise unconquerable by anyone within the three worlds. So I'm going to repeat the same request. That is, tomorrow I'm leaving, going to the next place. But after I'm gone, pretty pleased with ice cream and sugar on top and cake and, and any other nice things you want. Glove jamuns on top of that and anything. Sweetly, memorize verse number 3 and number 8 because they're so important. And then not just memorize them, but meditate on their meaning because they're so important. Okay, now verse number 4. After saying that one should give up speculative knowledge, he's going to reinforce that Bhakti is superior. My dear Lord, devotional service unto you is the best path for self-realization. If someone gives up that path and engages in the cultivation of speculative knowledge, he will simply undergo a troublesome process and will not achieve his desired result. So it's good to know what the desired result is. And the desired result is to know Krishna. The purpose of the Vedas is to know Krishna. And one can't know Krishna by speculative knowledge. So he'll not gain his desired result, but only he'll get trouble. So here's the example that's in the purport. Thrashing grain. There's the ladies. They're in an agricultural field growing rice or some wheat or some grain, and then they take this husking machine and then they beat the long stalks on the husking machine, and the grains fall through the husking machine, and then they throw away the chaff. Now, supposing that's been done, somebody comes along, takes the chaff, and thrashes the chaff. Any person who beats an empty husk of wheat cannot get grain. Similarly, one who simply speculates cannot achieve self-realization. He only gains trouble. So, that's verse 4. We're heading for verse number 8. Verse number 8 is very special, so I want to spend time on this special verse. So, Bhakti is superior to Gyan. Bhakti is superior to Yoga. Take your pick. Oh, Almighty Lord, in the past, many yogis in this world achieved the platform of devotional service by offering all their endeavors unto you and faithfully carrying out their prescribed duties. So this is yogis. So different types of yogis. Karma yogi, not Jnana yogi, but karma yogi. And they do their offering the results, karma evadikara se ma paleshu kadachana. Everyone knows that verse. Ma paleshu. You're not entitled to the pala, but you're entitled to perform your prescribed duty. So if you're not entitled to the pala, where do you put the pala? You offer to Krishna. The fruits of your work are offered to Krishna. Now that's a principle of yoga. So such yogis need, it's not mentioned, but hint, they also need the association of a devotee to go from karma yoga to jnana yoga. Through such devotional service, perfected by the process of hearing and chanting about you, they came to understand you, easily surrender to you, and achieve your supreme abode. So that's an indirect method. And then there's the Bhakti is the direct method. That was verse number 3 that you're going to learn, right? And meditate on. Number 6, non-devotees. This is another classification. However, cannot realize you in your full personal feature. Nevertheless, it may be possible for them to realize your expansion as the impersonal supreme by cultivating direct perception of the self within the heart. Now this is Canto 10, and some of you may have read Srimad Bhagavatam a little bit, or maybe substantially. And what this is saying is essentially the message of Chapter 2 of Canto 2. Canto 2, Chapters 1, 2, and 3 discuss, first of all, forming a conception of the Absolute by the universal form, moving from the universal form to the Paramatma form, moving from the Paramatma form to the personal form, Bhagavan form. So for the materialists, a recommendation is not complete, but a beginning recommendation is see God within nature, universal form. That's the type of, there's different types of universal form. That's what's described in Chapter 2, Canto 2, Chapter 1. You know, the rivers are his veins, and the trees are the hairs on his body, and the clouds in the sky are his hair, and, you know, that see things within that you can perceive with your senses. See them in relation to a form of the Supreme, or an aspects of the form of the Supreme, universal form, and that particular feature. Then moving from that meditation or contemplation to the Paramatma feature, the Lord in the heart. So that's what this second half. It may be possible for the non-devotees to realize your personal feature as an expansion of the impersonal Supreme by cultivating direct perception of the self within the heart. So the cultivation of direct perception of the self within the heart, that's dhyan, or meditation. That there are processes of meditation by which one may strive to go in that direction. And it may be possible for them, at least to without the personal, without the Bhagavan feature, to understand the impersonal Supreme, not the Brahmajyoti, but the self within the heart. But, this is part of the verse itself, they can do this only by purifying their mind and senses of all conceptions of material distinctions and all attachment to material sense objects. That's an arduous task. Do it again. All conception of material distinctions. Like, you know, you got when we leave, we're going to put our shoes on. I don't make any material distinctions. Any shoes are fine, or shoes go on your head, because we don't make any distinctions. So, and no attachment to material sense objects. Only in this way will your impersonal feature manifest itself to them. So you see the bright, brilliant effulgence. Behind the bright, brilliant effulgence is the Paramatma feature of the self. But, you know, the impersonal feature of the Paramatma is what's being described. And that's not easy. So that the context is, I was visiting my sister today, and we had lunch together with her daughter, and she asked me, what are you doing this evening? It was part of the conversation. I said, I'm going back to Fort Lauderdale, and we're going to have a class on the creator of the universe having personal interaction with Krishna in Vrindavan. Her head went back. Oh. She didn't say, well, wait a minute, is Krishna the creator? If he's not the creator, then who's the creator meeting Krishna? He didn't ask. I didn't tell. But that's the context. The creator of the universe is having a discussion or prayers, offering prayers. They didn't say discussion, offering prayers to Krishna. And he's recognizing everything that Krishna is. From revelation, Krishna revealed to him everything that Krishna is in many, many ways. And we'll see as this chapter goes on, his what he has understood from that little exposure to Krishna showing what Krishna showed him, he's understood a lot. And that's the context. Prayers by the Creator to the source of creation. Or the Creator, we say Creator, but actually it's the secondary Creator. There's Sarga, that's Vishnu. What Vishnu does is creation. And Visarga is the sub-creation. So that's what Brahma does. But the Creator is having a conversation with Krishna. And he's describing different ways of not understanding Krishna and steps to realize Krishna. Verse number 7 out of 8 is from this first section. In time, it's like a poo-poo on scholarly people. Learned philosophers or scientists might be able to count all the atoms of the earth. Good luck. The particles of snow. Good luck. Or perhaps even the shining molecules radiating from the sun, the stars, and other luminaries. Now, some of you may know enough about science to know that there has been a debate in science. Is light a wave or a particle? You know that one? And there's machines, there are ways of detecting without all the, the science of it. There are instruments, there are methodologies for determining it's a particle. There's methodologies for determining it's a wave. And the wave team says it's a wave, and the particle people say it's a particle. The scientists don't always agree. Is it a wave or is it a particle? And there's ways to demonstrate either. Here in the Bhagavatam, it's indicating they're particles, shining molecules radiating from the sun. In any case, that's a detail. The stars and other luminaries. So supposing one can have an abacus or a way of calculating all of this. But among these learned men, who could possibly count the unlimited transcendental qualities possessed by you, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who have descended onto the surface of the earth for the benefit of all living entities? So he's saying many things. His potencies are literally inconceivable. Achintya Shakti or Ananta Shakti. There's no limit. So when what's the limit to that which has no limit? That's a rhetorical question. There's no limit. There's no limit. Absolutely no limit. One may be able to count something that has a limit. And who can count all the atoms within the universe? But one can say there's a finite number. So one that can manage to do that. No one's going to manage to do that. Such a calculator won't be able to calculate that which has no limit, because it has no limit. They can reach the conclusion there's no limit. Fantastic. Thank you for all your counting, but there's no limit. One can reach that conclusion without trying to count. There's no limit. Unlimited transcendental qualities. So there's lists of qualities of Krishna, but when we read the lists, plural, of qualities of Krishna, it's some of the prominent ones, and but we should be clear. There's no limit. And then a second point that's being expressed here is when he comes, he displays those unlimited qualities. We're going to hear something further. Different living entities experience some, others experience others, and others experience others, because we're all individual. We experience different features of the unlimited. And no one has the experience of the unlimited. No one is unlimited. We're all limited and different, which is true. So we experience different features of the unlimited. And why does he appear? I mean, one way to say why he appears is he appears to attract us back to him, because we fell asleep at the wheel. I got in a car accident and we had a big crash. It's called material life. And we're in the hospital, recovering, wondering what happened. How did I get here? In the hospital. We fell asleep. We turned our attention away from our source and started to think something. If you don't have a sense of the source, then what do you have the sense of? Well, maybe I'm the source. Well, at least I'm going to try to be. I'm going to try to be the most powerful fellow on the block. And there's a few people in the world that are trying. And there's been people before them that were trying, the people after them that will also try the same thing, become the most powerful person on the block. And then they die, and then someone else does the same thing. But it's child play. It's foolish, and it's detrimental to them and those that look up to them as, this person is special or powerful or something. But so Krishna comes, specifically the verse is saying, Brahma is saying, the creator of the universe is saying that Krishna appeared for the benefit of all living beings, because that is that benefit. There's the limited and there's the unlimited benefit. The unlimited benefit is to become Krishna conscious, to become again conscious of that which we have forgotten. Yes. Can we do that? Everybody shift forward. Don't look at the people around you. Everyone come forward a little bit, please. And that nice harmonium that's sitting there, maybe that can disappear so that we have more room. And those of you that did move forward, thank you. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So the benefit for all living beings, all benefit of all living entities, is become again attracted. Here's a little Prabhupada story. I heard this from Sesrup Maharaj, who was present when this happened. In the early days, in Prabhupada in Manhattan, in the 26 Second Avenue storefront, it took a while to get that far, but once it was that far, It was 3 nights of the week. There was kirtan, lecture, kirtan, prasadam. And kirtan, lecture, kirtan, prasadam became like the number of participants started to swell. And as the number of participants started to get bigger and bigger and bigger, they felt happy. They felt ecstatic, and they started dancing. So then it became a regular thing. The kirtan would begin, and Prabhupada, melodious, gentle. And then the tempo would pick up, and the mridanga, the drums, they didn't have mridanga at that time, the drum sound, and the devotees started dancing. So it became chanting and dancing. And everyone was looking forward to chanting and dancing. Do you like dancing? No. What do you like? Prashadam. What do you think?
Mostly is everything.
Okay. You have your favorite prashadam? Do you know what your favorite prashadam is? What is it? You forgot. Cookies? You like cookies? No. What boy doesn't like cookies? You forgot. I know. Okay. Dancing and dancing and dancing. And it became like the crowd it became a crowd. The place was packed. And then one fine day, he became like the leader or the president of 26 Second Avenue. There was no ashram. No, everybody lived someplace else, except Prabhupada had a little room upstairs across, because there's a little grassy area behind the storefront, and then some apartments up above. So he had an upper apartment, and he lived there. Everybody else lived somewhere else, and they all came. Brahmananda was the president, and Brahmananda said, publicly, is it okay if we take this chanting into the public? It was so nice. And Prabhupada's answer was, I was just waiting for you to ask. Then his further answer was, yes, but we should have a permit because we don't want to have some difficulty with the police. It's New York City, So they got a permit for a park, Tompkins Square Park. It's not like a big park or anything, but they got a permit for the park to go there and have kirtan. So the ensemble and the little string, off they went to the Tompkins Square Park. And when they got to the park, they sat down under a tree. And they did the same thing under a tree in the public that they were doing every 3 nights of the week at 26 Second Avenue. And the same thing happened. The kirtan was mild, and then the tempo started, and then some devotees stood up, and then a crowd started to form because they had never seen anything like this before. Who's this man from Mars that we, dressed differently and stuff like that? And so the kirtan went on for some time. This is from Satsrup Maharaj describing the scene. And at a certain point, the kirtan stopped. There's a celebrated photograph. Maybe you've seen a copy of it. Prabhupada stood with his hands folded in front of him like this and looking around at the audience, and they're like, what's this guy going to say? And there's the church in the background, the big elm tree, and the words that Prabhupada spoke, very wisely chosen. I've not come to teach something new. I've simply come to remind you of what you have forgotten. Cool, huh? And that was his mission. That was what he was doing. Because we went to sleep. And we forgot Krishna. So Krishna comes, and the representative of Krishna comes for the benefit of all living entities, to remind us of what we've forgotten. And when that connection is made, then suffering is diminished and eventually ends, and the eternal life begins. Here's commentary. Without prema bhakti, no one can understand your transcendental form. Even those who have surpassed the material ocean by full of knowledge, but full of knowledge, cannot understand that form. So I want to get on to verse number 8 because it's so important. So we're going to spend most of our evening together on verse number 8. And I hope you're going to be like, your 10 is up and you're receiving this important message. So even those that have knowledge, and by dint of knowledge they can go beyond the grosser influences of material existence, still they can't understand. Without prema bhakti, they can't understand Krishna. No one can describe your innumerable sweet qualities, what to speak of realizing those qualities. What to speak, then, of being able to describe your astonishing qualities which engage you in sweet pastimes, such as stealing yogurt. Now, that's Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's rasika way of describing what beer. So it's a verse that he's describing how to realize Krishna, and necessity in realizing Krishna is leave aside the process of gyan, or speculative knowledge. Then he compares gyan to bhakti, compares yoga to bhakti, suitable and beneficial for a particular jiva. The jivas are unlimited. Their natures are unlimited. They are unlimitedly in unlimitedly different conditions. Therefore, within all that variety, there is supreme unlimitedness. That is impossible to count. What to speak of the unlimited places, all other types of spiritual practice, and only does te nukampam susamikshamano bhunjana evatma kritam vipakam ridvagva purbir vidadham namaste jiveta yo mukampam susamikshamano bhujana evatma kritam vipakam ridvagva purbir vidadham namaste jiveta yo mukti pade. And sa is a pronoun of wills and all those things. But the principle is when comes the rightful heir of that property. So here's the translation. We're going to go through each of these phrases. That's why we recited it twice, and we're going to recite it again before we're done. Is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim. Now this verse is very important. So Prabhupada has written about it. It's in seriously, even though there may be so many impediments. When such impediments arise, he should simply think of Krishna and expect his mercy, that is, spend time on each of the phrases. This is the first of the phrases of this verse. Tate nukampam susamikshamano. What's the meaning? Earnestly hoping for mercy, because that's kind of, this mercy means something that's not nice becomes nice. Somebody wanted me to eat spinach and I wanted cookies. Well, here, I'll sometimes if a child has an illness, the parent, mother or father, may recommend some bitter medicine. Bitter medicine. Similarly, whatever comes, it's not the happiness, it's the mercy. The happiness, I may think happiness is eat the sweet rice when I've got, that's the first part. Tate nukampam susamikshamano bhujana evadva atma kritam vipakam. Atma kritam. What's the meaning of this sometimes unpleasant uncomfortable or worse things come our way. And how to maintain even-mindedness, expecting mercy when that's going on. Bhujana eva atmakritam. Karma comes as a result of what we do. Result of karma is accrued or earned by oneself. Can somebody think of a nice verse? I can think of a couple nice verses. The result of our karma, good or bad, it's earned by, I'm responsible for the good and the bad that comes to me because I did something back there. And so based upon what I did today, atmakatam vipakam. So that's what Brahma is saying here. While expecting your compassion, that's this tat tenu kampam. I'm stitching it all together. Hope you austerities or so on means. This is Sridhar Swami's commentary, as you see it SS at the bottom. That means him. He's commenting on the Bhagavatam, saying sometimes persons know they made a boo-boo. They did something bad, and there's some reaction coming for that something bad, so they undergo some atonement, prayaschitta. Prayaschitta, atonement. That they take some hardship, and depending upon the severity, that hardship may become greater. It's a very simple. This is Canto 6, Chapter 1, first part of Chapter 1. That's the context. This is Canto 10 in Brahma's prayers. Let's go back to Canto 5. And one of the topics in Canto 5 is the structure of the universe. Towards the very end of Canto 5, there's a description of this, like this map over here, this chart or graph or poster. At the very bottom, there's the material universe, there's Vaikuntha, and there's Goloka. This is illustration of a verse from Sri Brahma Samhita. Goloka namni nijadamni tale chatasya Devi Maheshu Haridama Suteshu Teshu. It's describing the structure of the universe, right in Brahma Samhita. I mean, it's in simple. In the 5th canto Bhagavatam, it's in detail. And towards the end of 5th canto, it describes the hellish planets and the different types of suffering, hellish suffering, this, that, the other. And then 5th canto ends. So that opens the door for 6th canto. In 6th canto, the very soft-hearted King Parikshit, who's about to die, is concerned about people who are suffering in the hellish regions. What can be done to have them not have to undergo that suffering? He's gonna die, and he's concerned about people in hellish planets. What can be done? And what does Shukadev Goswami says? He gives a little Srimad Bhagavatam surprise quiz. He says atonement, prayaschitta, and right away, he didn't even go further with it. Maharaj Parikshit said, no. I was king, and I saw people, there's laws, and law breakers were punished, and as soon as we set them free after that punishment, in jail, prison, something, they'd go and do it again. They didn't learn from, and so it's insufficient. It's necessary. If there's sinful reaction, that's what this is being said in the verse, harsh austerities. Supposing there's some very, very severe something that one has done, so one may undergo severe austerities to atone for that sin, very, very bad sin. So Sridhar Swami is saying, that's inadequate. What's adequate is what Brahma is saying. What Brahma is saying is, whatever the reaction is, let it come. And I'll not budge an inch from the position of accepting the shelter of the personality of Godhead and staying fixed in the mission of serving him. Tat tenu kampam susamik shamano. Expecting his mercy will come. Not expecting mitigation of the difficulty, but expecting mercy. Why? Because he's merciful. That's why. The sun shines. Krishna is merciful. It's just the nature of the sun and the nature of Krishna. Expecting his mercy because he's merciful. So if there's some hardship that's coming, I'm the creator of that. I'm the architect of that misfortune. And I accept it because it's the law of nature. This isn't the case of someone who has not gone sufficiently in the bhakti process, where the reactions of past misdeeds no longer are possible. That came in chapter 13, where this is chapter 14 of Canto 10. In chapter 13, Krishna is considering, no, it's chapter 12. Krishna is considering these cowherd boys that just entered into the mouth of a Gasura demon. It's not prarabdha karma. That's not possible. These cowherd boys don't have any karma left. And Super Soul, who arranges karma, would never give them even the past tendency for prior misdeeds or prior wrongdoings. It just, Super Soul wouldn't give that to them. So there is a position where there's no karma. But there is a position where residual tendencies, there's no fan in the ceiling. But commonly, when there's a fan in the ceiling, you turn the switch off. What happens? The fan keeps moving slowly, correct? But, because there's no electricity going because you turn the switch off, it just rotates slowly until it stops. So the residual effect devotees may experience, it's not karma exactly, it's just residual effect of their past misdeeds. And if you're undergoing that, smile. Expect Krishna's mercy, because Krishna is merciful. The sun will shine. Krishna will be merciful. It's his nature. Here's a nice painting of Sanatan Goswami with his deity Madan Mohan. Still on the same Bhujan Evatma Kritam Vipakam. Sanatan Goswami writes, the sense is those results must be experienced, hence there's no consideration of being attached to happiness. The material idea of happiness is cuckoo anyways. It's not what real happiness is. But supposing I'm not an advanced person, I have an idea what happiness should be like, and this is not happiness. I became a Hare Krishna devotee, or a devotee of Krishna, and I'm still experiencing the movements of the blades of the fan. Harumph. Something wrong with the bhakti process. That's not the case. So don't be attached to the conception of what happiness is supposed to look like. Be attached to the tate nukampam susamikshimano. Be attached to the expectation of Krishna's being merciful, all the while accepting there's some responsibility that I hold for my past deeds. The good ones too, and the bad ones too. Not even being attached to not going through the results of one's karma. That, let it be nice. So here's two examples. On the left side, you know who that is. Maharaj Parikshit draping a dead snake around the neck of a sage. Do you know the sage's name? Shamak Rishi? You know the story? You don't know the story? The story is the person at the doorway, that's the king, Maharaj Parikshit. Now, Maharaj Pariksit, he underwent complete fast for 7 days when he knew that he was going to die. But by the Lord's arrangement, he's in the forest, and he was practicing his skills of fighting wild animals so he could give protection to the citizens when needed. And all of a sudden, he became overwhelmingly thirsty. That's not Maharaj Pariksit, but it was this super soul arranging, overwhelmingly thirsty. So he saw in the distance there was this little cottage. So he went to the cottage expecting the person residing in the cottage would give him some water. And because that's just a common courtesy. Someone comes, you give them some nice words, you give them some place to sit and some little water. Those things at least. So when he came into the cottage, there was a sage, his name was Shamak Rishi, a Brahmana. He was engaged in meditation. And because he was in deep meditation, he didn't even acknowledge the king. And the king was like, "What? You're a Brahmin, but I'm the king, and you have no courtesy? You can't even offer me a place to sit and some little water and some kind words?" He's in samadhi. He's in trance. But the king got upset. That's not Maharaj Pariksit. But he got upset. So he noticed as he came into the cottage, there was a dead snake on the ground outside the cottage. So he picked up the dead snake on the tip of his sword and put the dead snake around the neck of the sage and left. Word got to his little son, Shingi, who was at school. "Do you know what happened? The king came to your father's hermitage and he put a dead snake on his neck." So the little boy, being trained as a Brahmana by his father, he uttered a Brahmin boy's curse. The king should die in 7 days by the bite of a snake bird. What's a snake bird? No such thing. You've heard of snakes? You've heard of snakes. Yeah. You've heard of birds. You've heard of a snake bird? You really? There's no such thing. It's a mystical thing. So the father heard from his son what happened, and the son was crying, and the father knew it's too late. The curse has been uttered. So the father went to the king and said, "This is what my son did. He cursed you that you're going to die in 7 days by the bite of a snake bird. So prepare yourself. In 7 days, you're going to die." "I'm so sorry, but I can't take it back. It's already done." Now, what did Maharaj Pariksit do? He did a misdeed. The misdeed was inspired by Super Soul, but he did a misdeed. It was a bad thing. He was cursed by the son of the sage. So immediately he accepted exactly what this verse is saying, expecting the mercy of Krishna, and surely it came. He went back to Godhead because the mercy of Krishna came by the form of the association of Shukadeva Goswami to narrate Srimad Bhagavatam. And sure enough, at the end of the 7 days, you see in the painting on the right, that's this snake bird with wings, and he came and bit the king. And instantly the venom of the serpent was so intense, his body burst into flames, and poof, there goes Maharaj Pariksit, back to Godhead. Body was finished, and his soul, because his consciousness was completely absorbed in Krishna, he went to Krishna. Exactly what the verse says. And there's another example. Another example is on the left side. Some of you know the story of King Chitraketu. And this is, part 2 and part 3 of the Chitraketu story. Part 1 is Chitraketu had many, so many wives because he was very anxious to have a son. There was no son. So he married another lady and married another lady, and he had a lot of queens. No son. And he was boo-hoo, I have no son. And so one sage, what was the name of the sage? Angira Muni, thank you. Angira Muni said, King, you don't look so good. What happened? He said, no son, no son. He said, maybe, can you accept it's not meant, how many queens you have? No son? Does that tell you something? It's not meant to be, right? Oh, a son, I want a son. Okay. Here's a fruit, a mango. You eat this mango, give it to your wife, and she'll conceive a son. But he's got all these queens. So he gave the mango to one queen, and she conceived a son. And the king got completely immersed in his son and the queen that gave birth to the son. And all the other queens were neglected. Problema. And some of them got together and said, you know what? Let's get rid of this son. So they decided to poison the son. So they killed him in his sleep. And so he came, this is part 1. He came and in the one morning to see his newborn son in the cradle, and he found him dead. And he screamed, and his wife screamed, and everyone's carrying on like mad people because he just wanted the son. Now the son's dead. At that very moment, uncanny, Angira and his dear friend Narada Muni came. And Narada Muni saw the scene of the king crying and the wife crying and the ladies giggling. And so he went to the son and said, my dear boy, just see how your father is beside him. That was a wake-up call for the king. So Chitraketu went and did austerities and became a self-realized person and in a spacecraft that could travel throughout the universe. And he one time was paying a visit to his friend. He had that kind of relationship with Lord Shiva. And he visited Lord Shiva at the top of Mount Kailash. Notice in the painting, there's Narada Muni, and there's but the remark she took as he was criticizing Lord Shiva. So she raised her finger and cursed him. So the bad reaction to being misunderstood. You become a demon. So he became a new Krishna. By relieving him of that cursed demon's body, Vritrasura, and he went back to Godhead. Example number 2 of the verse number 8. Bhujan evatma kritam vipakam. And then what should one do? Hrid vagvapur bir vididhan namaste. There's the illustration that entered the doorway. That's somebody raising their arms. And the essence of patiently enduring fruits of karma culminates in expressing one's surrender to the Lord in the form of offering obeisances, with 3 main faculties that are involved in any relationship: heart, words, and body. And so only my master, not I, knows what is good for me. Hence, time, karma, and the like have no influence on me, your devotee. Thus, out of mercy, you make me experience happiness and sorrow and induce me to serve you. It's dependence. It's the very same message as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. No surprise. Here's why. The message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the message of Srimad. Canto 1 Srimad Bhagavatam is a little synopsis biography of Lord Chaitanya's life. And then comes his teachings, the life and teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Pretty nice, huh? I mean, he didn't blare the trumpet and bang the Sadhya Bhak. This is part of the verse we didn't cover yet. Only while living, Jiveta, does one partake in or inherit the gift of the Father's affluence. Similarly, this is Baladev Vidyabhusan, only while staying on the path of bhakti does a person become a recipient of the gift of your Father. What does the devotee inherit? This is this Mukti Pade. The devotee inherits you, the foundation of liberation also. You are that devotee's portion. When the Father's property is divided among the brothers, the devotee receives you, Mukti Pade, the shelter of liberation, as his share. What use is in such feet are called liberation, Mukti Pade. And this is a nice painting. You all recognize the painting. This is Gopa Kumar returning to Goloka Vrindavan. Gopa, cowherd boy, he received mantra from his guru, and he chanted his mantra faithfully, and he eventually ended up in Goloka Vrindavan. And Krishna embraces him when he comes and said, "It took you so long to get here." I was thinking, maybe in this lifetime he'll come, but you didn't come. And in the next lifetime I was thinking, maybe in this lifetime he'll come, but you didn't come. And I've been waiting and waiting, and finally you came. Please never leave. I'll never leave. I'll never leave. That's it.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Thank you for this session, Maharaj. So, the question is, the mercy, like we have to feel whenever, like whatever happening in our day-to-day life, we have to feel the mercy, or the mercy is only when Antakale Chamameva, only when we remember Krishna at the end of.
That's mercy. The mercy is the connection. And remembering that forgotten connection. That was that little story of Prabhupada saying, I've not come to teach something new, but to remind you what you have forgotten. That's the mercy. The instrument was Prabhupada, but the message is the same. Remind us of what we have forgotten. Krishna comes to do that. And that's mercy. The whole of the Bhagavatam, all doing what we're doing this evening and the other evenings. That's the mercy. The sound vibration has the potency to lift us to remembrance and out of forgetfulness. That's the mercy. So the circumstance is whatever the circumstance is. It can be whatever it is. Good fortune, ill fortune. We're the architect of that. We just accept that's what it is. And there's more to say on that topic, good fortune, ill fortune. But we just accept it. Tate no kampam su samikshimano. Bhujan. So, just accept it. Material life means adjusting. And the adjustment doesn't work, it doesn't endure. And so we keep on adjusting and keep on adjusting, and that's material life. And then we do it again the next lifetime, that again the next lifetime. And there's no solution to the problem in making adjustments. So that back to your question. We had this discussion already. Well, I just mentioned it again because someone's going to ask it anyways. Are we just supposed to be like a blob and, whatever happens, que sera, sera, whatever will be, just we're a punching bag and people come and punch us and that's okay. So we're pro that's done as service that's pleasing and favorable to Krishna. Here in Florida, it's warm. Where I came from was Houston. It was equally warm. But where I was before I was in Houston, it was cold. And before that, it was cold. And, I wake up in the morning here, and it's 80 degrees, 79, 80 degrees early in the morning. The other place I was waking up, it was 39 degrees. You got to have some heat. Anyway, so you make adjustments, the heat in one place and the air conditioning or a fan in the other place. We do practical needful things because of circumstances, but that's not happiness. Anyone who thinks it's happiness, that's a mistake. It's foolishness. So what's happiness? Receiving the mercy of being reminded of what we've forgotten. And the best means for that is the Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. The Vishnu Smaranam comes as a byproduct of Shravanam, Kirtanam. And then the rest of devotional service, starting with Shravanam, Kirtanam, starting with hearing. That's the mercy. So all of us, without exception, we're all here because of some sound vibration. Our founder Acharya came and, produced it. A sound vibration that wasn't heard before he came to produce it. And therefore there was ignorance, abundant. And those that haven't heard, ignorance. It's not like pointing the finger and calling bad names or something like that. But people that haven't received that sound vibration, they're in ignorance. And they're suffering. And there's no shelter. There's no end in sight. It's just, where am I going after this life? No idea. No idea. What's happening the rest of this life? No idea. Adjustments. That's what's going on. To bring happiness. What's that? It's really sad. And as I'm speaking and thinking, frankly, I'm thinking about my sister. We grew up together. We were like 3 years apart in age. And we did lots of stuff together when we were young. And she didn't hear that sound vibration. So she's in this other realm. And on and on and on and on and on and on and on. Immersed in ignorance. I mean, I'm speaking not to her, I'm speaking to this audience, but how unfortunate. So now how to give that unfortunate fortune, the mercy, the sound. So some arrangements have been made to, little by little, let's see what happens, little by little. Sound. So we're getting the mercy. And the circumstances of our life is what it is. And we're the creators are of it, we're the architects of our good Sadasad Yoni Janmasu. Karanam Gunasangosya Sadasad Yoni Janmasu. The scriptures give us the answer. We just have to take shelter of that sound vibration and accept the encouragement. The reality is this, and the option is like, through transcendental sound. Yes. We have two microphones. He's one. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much for the wonderful class. So I have two questions.
Okay.
One was by toiling and performing austerities, that's not the solution. It was mentioned.
Yes.
So we should do austerities.
Yeah, but austerities for what purpose? Tapo divyam. Where's that from? You've heard that phrase. Where's that from? Is Rishabhdeva's teachings to his son. Rishabhdeva is an incarnation, and that's how he starts. Putraka, oh, my dear sons, you should engage in tapo divyam. The human form of life is meant for that. So there's difference than counteracting miseries by austerities and tapo divyam. Let's say Ekadasi. And is it a good idea? The answer is yes. Is it a good idea on Ekadasi that whatever we do, you try to increase on the spiritual and decrease on the material? At least something that's a gesture of acknowledging that auspicious day. And that there are different ways you can do that, in decreasing and increasing. So that's tapo divyam. We should do, etc.
Second question popped in my head because we were talking about the universal form, second canto. So we, as a group, we are reading Laghu Bhagavatamrita. And so one of the things which was, I was trying to wrap my head around it was like, the universal form, it was mentioned, is not Vishnu, it's not Krishna, but it is Hiranyagarbha, and it's like Vishnu and Brahmaji. It's like water and milk, right? It's Vishnu's potency from showing the subtle body of Hiranyagarbha or Brahma. So how to understand that?
Oh, that's not easy. There's a concept. What you described is what it is. You're asking what it is. You gave the concept. So it's a form that the Virat Rupa is a type of meditation. It is a form of the Supreme, but it's temporary. And so the Lord is eternal. It was a temporary form. It's their cosmic manifestation is a temporary form. But it's a form of the Supreme. And meditation upon that. So what is it? It's a type of meditation. And it's intended specifically from the first chapter of Canto 2. It's intended for those that do not have a personal conception of the Supreme. So it's to assist them, that meditation on the Virat Rupa is to assist them in developing or moving towards a personal conception. Therefore, they see in the first chapter, because there are different universal form descriptions, seeing things in relation to the Supreme. To see form when I'm not seeing form. To see the Supreme where I'm not seeing the Supreme. It's a type of meditation. And exactly as you described what Laghu Bhagavatamrita says it is. It's just what it is. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So being a devotee, when we are actually only thinking about ourselves, about this karma.
Yeah.
And let's say a problem comes to me and I can myself console, thinking that it could be because of my past karma, and maybe handle that. But if a devotee is in a social responsible position, and you are in a position where you need to assess an incident where two individuals or two countries are involved, and one person may be suffering or he got affected by that incident. At that time, how do we generalize, or like how do we say that whatever the suffering is happening on one party is because of his karma? And wouldn't how do we handle this dharma, adharma, punishment aspect and all? And to give an example from Mahabharata itself, like whatever humiliation Draupadi had to face in that court by Dushasana, did Krishna think that the humiliation which happened to Draupadi is because of her past karma?
No.
So,
This verse applies to those that are not beyond karma. Draupadi is beyond karma.
okay. So in this world, like let's say whenever we observe two countries fighting each other and we know that one country is right and one country is wrong.
Oh, that's silly. They're all wrong.
But do we, like, can we generalize and take it to even Kauravas and Pandavas then that both were wrong and like, because God or anybody has to take a side of the truth, right?
No, the Kauravas, by design, they were adharmic. What particularly Duryodhana did was he did some things that were dharmic. But most of what he did was adharmic. He was trained, but he chose adharma grossly, again and again and again. And the Pandavas, under the guidance of Yudhisthira, they didn't deviate from dharma. So it's not exactly good and bad. It's dharma and adharma. Okay. And so dharma. Those who abide by dharma are protected by dharma. Dharma rakshataha. Those who protect dharma are protected by dharma. They were dharmic, and they were protected by dharma, ultimately protected by Krishna. And that's certainly what happened.
Being a Krishna devotee, how can we identify who is adharmic? Because in this Kali Yuga, there are more people who
mostly adharmic.
So we need to have that knowledge of segregating who is right and who is wrong.
Well, more important than who is right and who is wrong is those who are Krishna conscious. Those who have Krishna. By that I mean those that have taken full shelter of Krishna. Those that have taken full shelter. Those that have not taken full shelter of Krishna can't distinguish between right and wrong. Those that have taken full shelter of Krishna, there's knowledge of the scripture to have shelter in Krishna, and with shelter in Krishna, then at least some essential sense of right and wrong. And then there comes refinement of that essential sense of right and wrong. And that refinement, it takes finer intelligence. Yudhisthira had that finer intelligence, or a very exalted Vaishnava, not just one who has good education, but one very exalted Vaishnava can know the difference between right and wrong. That most people don't have the capacity because they don't have the intelligence. They don't have bhakti gives the intelligence of how to discern right and wrong. Now it's a bold statement, but it's a correct statement. Let's say it a different way. Same thing in a different way. Those who have intelligence, they may know what's right and wrong, and they may do what's wrong anyways. In certain circumstances, at least, people that have good intelligence can act wrongly because they're impelled by the modes of nature and their past karma and circumstances, and they get triggered and do something cuckoo. It happens. Not only in modern society or modern life, but with Vedic culture, good people can do bad things. And there's consequences for those bad things. So knowledge or intelligence is not sufficient. Bhakti is sufficient. When bhakti is strong, then one is protected by bhakti. Just like one who is dharmic is protected by dharma. But infallible. Then this invites a whole discussion on the distinction between virtue that sense of dharma, doing the virtuous thing or the right thing, and doing transcendence, like Arjuna killing. He was giving a virtue argument, and Krishna gave him the transcendental argument. Why? He appeared in this world to annihilate the demons. So a virtuous person like Arjuna didn't want to kill his grandfather who raised them. When their father was deceased, their grandfather raised them like his own children, and their teacher, to fight his teacher and kill his teacher, that's adharmic. You don't do that. That's adharmic. Krishna wanted him to do it. It's a lesson in the hierarchy of what's to be done, what's not to be done, and that's the highest. It was a stretch for Arjuna, but he accepted. He fought, even against. I mean, it's unthinkable against your grandfather, and specifically your grandfather who raised you when your father was gone. He was like your father. And to fight and kill is to be done, and that's not to be done. Anukul yasha sankalpa, pratikul yasha varjanam. Accept things favorable, reject things unfavorable. She tried. Boy, did she try to work you over.
It seems the devotee who is undergoing tribulations and waiting for the Lord's mercy, that eventually wants to get out of this.
No. You didn't catch me. You can trample me. You can neglect me.
Okay.
Only one thing. What's the one thing?
Devotional service,
Yeah.
birth after birth. Okay.
Yeah. Mama Jamani Bhavatat Bhaktir Ahaitaki Twayi. That's mercy.
Thank you so much for wonderful class. Maharaj, on this verse, the devotee who is, although in the tribulation, he is offering his heart, words, and
Yes.
body,
Yes.
and is expecting Lord's mercy, and he's waiting.
And sadhu sangha means Mahat Sevam Dwara Mahor Vimuktes. You know the verse? 5:5:2. Bhagavatam. To release from material existence. But the goal is not release, the goal is service to the Mahats. And that's the happiness that I want, birth after birth.